At 7:43 on the morning of April 10, 2019, Phil Verster stood on the corner of Queen Street East and Pape Avenue in Toronto, holding a rolled set of transit maps against his chest. 52 years old, 28 years in transit systems across 3 continents. He had rebuilt rail networks in South Africa, restructured commuter lines in the United Kingdom, and now he was watching a woman in a yellow parka miss her 3rd consecutive streetcar, each one too packed to board. He had seen this before, not here, everywhere. The president and CEO of Metrolinx had arrived at this intersection at 7:43 because a transit modeler named Sarah Kwan had sent him a single-line email the night before. "Come see what I see every morning." He came. What he saw was 40,000 people per hour trying to move through a system designed for 22,000. Toronto's transit problem did not appear overnight. It accumulated across 8 decades of incomplete decisions, canceled lines, and deferred maintenance. By 2019, the city operated 82 kilometers of subway track, serving a population of 2.9 million, a ratio that ranked it among the most underfunded transit corridors of any major North American city. The Bloor-Danforth line, opened in 1966, carried daily loads its engineers had never anticipated. The Yonge Corridor, the oldest subway in Canada, ran trains at headways of 90 seconds during rush hour, the mechanical minimum before safety systems would force an automatic shutdown. There was no margin left. The Don Valley, Thorncliffe Park, Flemington Park. These were communities of 55,000 people sitting 4 kilometers from the nearest subway station, accessible only by surface routes that traveled at an average of 11 kilometers per hour through downtown congestion. A resident of Thorncliffe Park traveling to Union Station during morning rush hour could expect a 67-minute journey. The same trip by car, 14 minutes. That asymmetry had existed for 50 years. It had been studied, mapped, modeled, and filed 17 times since 1985. It had never been built. The plan that Verster carried that April morning was not a new idea. Transit planners at Metrolinx had been developing relief corridor proposals since 2012 under names that changed with each successive government. The Downtown Relief Line, the Relief Line South, the Ontario Line. The name changed. The problem did not. What made 2019 different was a combination of factors that transit planners rarely see converge. Political will in federal infrastructure funding windows and a ridership crisis acute enough that delay was no longer defensible. The provincial government had committed $10.9 billion. The federal government had signaled matching participation under the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. Environmental assessment timelines had been compressed under new provincial authority. The window was open. It would not stay open. If you want to see how the Ontario line went from 7 decades of unfulfilled proposals to an active construction project reshaping the largest city in Canada, hit that like button. It helps us share more stories like this one. Subscribe if you haven't already. Back to Verster. The proposed alignment ran 15.6 kilometers from the Ontario Science Centre in the northeast to the exhibition grounds in the southwest. 15 stations. 4 interchange points with existing subway, GO Transit, and light rail infrastructure. Tunneled sections beneath the downtown core. An elevated viaduct structure across the Don River Valley, engineered to carry 30-meter light metro trains at speeds up to 110 kilometers per hour. It was not a streetcar improvement. It was not a surface BRT corridor with a new name. It was a full rapid transit line, built to European metro specifications, designed to carry 54,000 passengers per hour in peak direction. For context, The entire Toronto streetcar network carries approximately 300,000 passengers per day. The Ontario line, at full capacity, could carry that volume in under 6 hours. The engineering challenges were considerable. So tunneling beneath downtown Toronto meant navigating 19th-century brick sewer infrastructure at depths of 4 to 12 meters, working around the foundations of 23 high-rise structures, and crossing 2 active subway tunnels without disrupting service. Tunnel boring machine procurement alone required 30-month lead times. The Don River crossing required a 175-meter span bridge structure designed to accommodate both transit and future pedestrian access. None of this was insurmountable. All of it required precise sequencing. Construction mobilization began in earnest in 2023. The first major works concentrated at the northern terminus, the Ontario Science Centre Station, situated at Don Mills Road and Eglinton Avenue East. Positioned to connect the Ontario line directly to the Eglinton Crosstown LRT upon its opening. Eglinton Crosstown, or 66 stations, 19 kilometers, 14 years in construction. Its completion, repeatedly deferred, became the fixed reference point around which Ontario line planners had to structure their own timeline. A dependency embedded into the project's critical path that no engineer had requested and none could remove. Thorncliffe Park Station sits 1.4 kilometers south of the Science Centre terminus, elevated on a steel and concrete guideway structure crossing the Hydro Corridor east of Flemington Park. This elevation was not an aesthetic choice. It was a cost decision. Tunneling through this section would have added $340 million in 18 months. The elevated structure costs less, builds faster, and delivers the same service. What it also delivers, for the first time in the 70-year history of Thorncliffe Park as a residential community, is a direct rail connection to the Toronto subway network. Thorncliffe Park is home to 26,000 residents. Median household income, $42,000. Transit dependency, 71% of households. Average daily commute to downtown employment, 94 minutes. When the Ontario line opens, that number drops to 32 minutes. Pape Station represents the structural center of the Ontario line's downtown integration. Located at Danforth Avenue and Pape, it creates an interchange with the existing Bloor-Danforth subway, Line 2, at a point where Line 2 currently operates at 94% of its designed capacity during morning rush hours. The interchange requires a full below-grade construction footprint of 120 meters by 60 meters, descending to a depth of 28 meters. 3 levels. Paid area connections to Line 2 without requiring a faregate exit, are designed for bidirectional passenger flows that transit engineers modeled at 14,000 people per hour through the interchange alone. When construction crews reached the 18-meter depth level at POP in the spring of 2024, they encountered something the ground-penetrating radar surveys had not fully resolved. A section of 1920s-era timber crib sewer infrastructure, 2.4 meters in diameter, running diagonally through the planned station box footprint at a 23-degree angle. The structure was not on any current city drawing. It appeared on one map dated 1931. The decision that followed, whether to reroute, abandon, or engineer around the obstruction, took 11 days of assessment involving city engineers, Metrolink structural teams, and Toronto Water. The resolution, a reinforced concrete bridge structure built beneath the existing sewer, allowing the station box to proceed without service interruption to live sewer infrastructure serving 8,400 upstream connections. 11 days lost. No other options. Queen Carlaw Station, positioned at Queen Street East and Carlaw Avenue, anchors the Ontario Line's presence in the Eastern Waterfront Planning Corridor. This station was not in the original 2019 alignment proposal. It was added in 2021 following consultation with the City of Toronto Planning Division, which identified the Leslieville and South Riverdale catchment area as a growth node projected to add 34,000 residents by 2041. Adding a station adds cost. In this case, $280 million. Removing it removes 34,000 future residents from rapid transit access. The city kept the station. Udon Yard, the maintenance and storage facility for Ontario Line rolling stock, occupies a 12-hectare site north of Eastern Avenue, adjacent to the Don River. This facility is not visible to passengers. It is, however, the operational heart of the entire line. Without a functional maintenance facility, no train runs. The Don Yard will house 61 train sets of Hitachi Rail light metro vehicles, the same platform used on the Elizabeth Line in London and the Crossrail network in Sydney. Each train set, 60 meters long. Passenger capacity, 700 per train. Operating frequency at full build-out every 90 seconds. The math compounds quickly. 90-second headways, 700 passengers per train, both directions. That is the 54,000 per hour figure again. It is not a theoretical ceiling. It is an engineered operational target. The exhibition terminus at the western end of the line sits adjacent to Ontario Place and the existing GO Transit Exhibition Station. The connection here is intentional and structural. Ontario Line passengers arriving from Thorncliffe Park or Leslieville will transfer directly to GO Transit's Lakeshore West Corridor, accessing Mississauga, Hamilton, and Oakville, without re-entering the downtown fare zone. This is not a minor convenience. For a region of 6.2 million people organized around single-occupancy vehicle infrastructure for 70 years, a seamless cross-regional transfer at exhibition represents a measurable behavioral threshold. Key transit planners at Metrolinx model a 7 to 12% reduction in vehicle kilometers traveled in the Ontario Line catchment area upon full system opening, a number that translates directly to reduced highway congestion on the Gardiner Expressway and Don Valley Parkway. The Ontario Line does not merely move people through Toronto. At full operation, it restructures the economic geography of the eastern half of a city of 3 million people. Phil Verster left Metrolinx in June 2023. His tenure had covered the full political and engineering arc of Ontario Line approvals. From the chaos of competing municipal and provincial transit visions to a construction program with defined contracts, tunneling schedules, and opening targets, he did not stay to see it open. The people who will see it open are the 55,000 residents of Thorncliffe Park and Flemington Park, the 26,000 residents of Leslieville who currently board the 501 Queen streetcar in darkness at 6:15 in the morning to reach downtown by 8 o'clock, the 14,000 daily commuters at Pepe who transfer between lines in a station that was never designed for the volume it carries. The Ontario Line will open in sections between 2029 and 2031. It will carry, at projected 2041 ridership, 390,000 passengers per day. It will reduce daily vehicle trips in its catchment area by an estimated 43,000. It will connect communities to the city's economic core that have been functionally excluded from rapid transit access since those communities were built. 70 years of proposals, 17 filed studies, 1 built line, the woman in the yellow parka at Queen and Pepe, the one who missed 3 streetcars while Phil Verster watched. She still waits there every morning. The Pepe station construction hoarding went up in 2023, 14 meters from where she stands. She's still waiting. But the waiting has a number now. 32 minutes. If this story showed you something you didn't know about the city you move through every day, do me a favor, hit that like button. Every like tells YouTube to show this story to more people. Subscribe and turn on notifications. We're documenting the infrastructure systems that carry this country forward. Rail lines, power grids, port facilities, pipelines. The systems that, if they stopped, Canada would stop. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Tell us if you ride transit in Toronto, or if you've been watching this construction from your window. You're not just a viewer, you're part of the record. Thank you for watching.